Gibson Hubbard, and I am honored to serve as the Director of the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs. And it is my distinct pleasure and honor today to be here to celebrate Immigrant Heritage Month. We know that immigrants have brought so much richness to our city and also to our country, and I can't wait to have a great discussion today about the contributions of immigrants right here in the District of Columbia. And so year after year, we know that families and individuals come from every corner of the globe, and their unique stories, traditions, and heritage make our nation's capital the beautiful city that it is today. And as a result of that, Washington, D.C. is stronger. We are more diverse, and we are a vibrant and beautiful city that we would not be without the beauty of the diversity that immigrants bring. And their stories and their strength are part of our DC values. And as I said before, it adds to the rich fabric of our city, and it really just gives us the uniqueness that we love to always tell people about here in the District of Columbia. So today, I'm honored to be joined by several of our directors who are a part of the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs, and their respective offices are the Mayor's Office on African Affairs, the Mayor's Office on Asian Pacific Islander Affairs, and the Mayor's Office on Latino Affairs, who will share their incredible stories on their journey to serving communities through public service. In addition to our directors, we will have 3 other special guests, other Washingtonians who will share with us how they came to the United States and the role that they play in our community. And so without further ado, I'm really excited to turn it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. So I'm just going to go on down the line. So Ben, if we can start with you.
Yes, thank you. My name is Ben de Guzman, and I'm proud to be the Director for the Mayor's Office on Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs here in Washington, D.C.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Loyom, and I am the executive chef, co-owner of the Me Restaurant on H Street, and I have been here since 1970.
Hola, mi nombre es Jackie Reyes Llanes, and I am proudly the Director of the Mayor's Office on Latino Affairs. And DC has been my home since 1990, and I'm a proud resident of Ward 5. And my kids were born here and my grandkids, so I'm very proud to be an immigrant in Washington, D.C.
Hi, my name is Ana Reyes. I'm with El Tamarindo Restaurant. My family emigrated from El Salvador in the 1970s. I am a proud DC native, and I'm incredibly happy to be a part of the immigrant community in Washington, D.C., a city that really values everything that we bring to the table.
I am Yodit Shukuru, Chair of the Commission on African Affairs and the Director for Government Contracts and Procurement Services with the DC Small Business Development Center Network at Howard University School of Business. I came to the United States from Ethiopia in 1991. I've been a DC resident since 2009, specifically in Ward 1. And thank you for inviting me here.
Hello, my name is Ali Kaba. I have the privilege to serve as the Director of the DC Mayor's Office on African Affairs. I'm a proud resident of Ward 5, and I moved to the US in 2012 from France. Thank you.
Thank you. I am not even really that well traveled, let alone feel like I deserve to be in this room with all the greatness that you all are bringing. But I want to learn so much more about what it means to you to be an immigrant or part of the immigrant community here in the District of Columbia. So I'm going to start first with our panelists who are not in our offices. So Ana, Jocelyn, or Yodit, if you would just start by sharing your experiences. So maybe Jocelyn, if we could start with you.
I arrived in the Washington area in 1970. I'm originally from Rangoon, Burma. And being an immigrant to me is being American, because I believe that all Americans are immigrants, except for the ones who were here before us all. We are, a big family of immigrants, and that's the celebration of it all, that we are never very far from each other in that sense. And so for me, being in the food industry has been a way to connect all that together. And being an immigrant is always a celebration and a very big strength of Washington, D.C. for us. So,
Thank you for
Excited.
that. So Anna?
Sure.
Okay.
So, I, like Jocelyn, have the opportunity of sharing my culture through our food, and just kind of, that's kind of like the introduction, and then people take an interest as to other things. So, again, being from El Salvador, it's such a small country, not many people, you know, we get to share our culture through our food, and really get people to learn about our country and connect with them in that way.
Yeah. I know that's beautiful. I enjoy all of the foods. I think that definitely means something, but there's also so much culture, and also other beauty even outside of that, right? Like that's the entry point.
Absolutely.
But a wonderful and delicious entry point. But in addition to that, so much more. How about you?
So like I said, I came in 1991 to pursue my higher education. I'm the second generation to come to the United States. My family started immigrating here in the 70s. I feel like I have immigrated so much into America that I feel more American. But since I moved to DC, each year I have become more humble to be part of this engaged and compassionate community, and mainly because of the role that I have. One, since I've started serving, you know, as a commissioner on the mayor office, and also my daily job where I get to meet and help the business community here in the district for them to either start their business or expand the business, and seeing them create employment for themselves and other immigrants as well.
Thank you so much for sharing.
I'm a proud resident of the district.
Yeah. And I love that everybody keeps saying that. You know, I'm a proud resident of the district, and we're all neighbors, right? But there are roles and responsibilities that really help us to feel connected. And I want to bring in my three colleagues that I get the pleasure of working with, and they get to push me and pull me in a lot of different directions in order to make sure we're serving all of our neighbors well, and that we can see ourselves as one community. So I want to turn next to the directors of both the Mayor's Office on Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs, the Mayor's Office on Latino Affairs, and the Mayor's Office on African Affairs. And I want to say the full names because I feel like we always use acronyms, and then people are like, what does that mean? But you guys do such vital work, and you are important liaisons within the community in order to connect not just your community to resources, but your community to other communities. And so I want you to share just a little bit more about the vital role of your offices, and you know, the types of services you provide, but what does that work mean to you? So I'm going to start first with Jackie, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you for that importance that you make of the offices. I always say that, and the mayor has said also, when she became the mayor, Mayor WeAreDC, that her directors they were going to reflect the constituency that elected her. So and we have you can see that the Vietnamese. I think that you are the Vietnamese.
Oh, Filipino.
Filipino. You know, so and I'm the first Salvadorian to lead the office of Mayor's Office on Latino Affairs, an office that was established in 1976. And having said that, Salvadorians are the biggest constituency in the district, and we are in the third largest in the nation. So when she appointed me to the director's office on Latino Affairs, they were more like a rubber band office. But now we listen. We had our open house. There were coming people from different places. So it means a lot to me that when the mayor appointed us to this position, it was to be a bridge and a voice at the same time for our community. So when the pandemic happened, we had to be creative and be innovative in how we're gonna deliver services, because people didn't have computer access. So we decided to keep the office open. And one of the biggest need, it was food, the food disparity. We went from 1 food bank to 7 food banks a week, and to help people navigate the unemployment system, the language access, so we have to be, and I always took pride to say that if the mayor say something in English, the second breath gotta be in Spanish, because we were the largest population. But our team were going around the clock, and making sure that we translated documents. We have translated more than 800 documents, newsletter, mayor's press conferences, special updates from the mayor. So we have done that. And also we created these beautiful masks that we have to get innovated on how we were gonna get services to people. So we had 9 women in the district. Most women are households. So we created what it was, the Rayo de Esperanza, it was light of hope. That we bought the materials and there was a partnership with the Hispanic Chamber. So we got how we're gonna reinvent ourselves, but also how we're gonna use the nonprofits that we already have. So we buy the materials, then bought the mask, and then gave this out at the food banks. So we have distributed more than 3,000 masks, and that has been something that we're very proud of. Then summer youth, so we have young people doing the virtual, but we were we had 20 kids calling Latinos, making sure that they were filling out their unemployment. If they need services, they need services at the schools. Are you not getting into contact with the teachers? So we go doing the wraparound services, and our young people, they were feel productive, that we engage them into that, into connect services. So we're very with the pandemic, we knew of strength that we didn't have, and to reach out to the most vulnerable people in the district. We talk about the culture, but also are these people that that need services. And what the mayor said, it doesn't matter if you have been here 5 minutes or 5 generations. We are part of this great city that we call we are Washington, and we're in Somos, Washington, D.C. So, but that translates not only to the culture, but to the services. So I'm very happy to serve under MayorBowser, because she set the tone and the bar high for us. And we had think that all my colleagues here and the table here, we represent that, what Washington, D.C. means in the nation's capital.
Absolutely. So I'm going to turn to you, Ali, and just to share a little bit more about the Mayor's Office on African Affairs and really what delivering those services to the community means to you.
Yes, it means a lot to me. First, it is a privilege for us at the Mayor's Office on African Affairs, and a moral obligation to support our vulnerable communities in the district. We are mandated by the mayor to ensure that our DC values are reflected to the work done at the Mayor's Office on African Affairs. And our legislative mission is to ensure that a full range of health, education, employment, and social services are accessible to our community members. So we monitor delivery of those services, and we make recommendations to the mayor to promote those communities' welfare. So I want to seize this opportunity to really thank my team members, my staff, Cherry Chenko, our former deputy director that have been promoted recently, Gedila Getane, our deputy director, Semha Lagos, Yared Mengistu, and Sosina Baruda for their tireless work during the pandemic in really serving the community. It was consistent work, and they've been really helpful to me and to the community. In addition to that, our office is mandated to work closely with the Office of Human Rights as a consultative agency to monitor the well implementation of the Language Access Act of 2004 to ensure that all information DC programs and information are available to our community members in the languages they speak. So it's a great honor to serve at the Mayor's Office on African Affairs.
Thank you so much for that. And I think that language access component is really important, so I'm glad that you brought that up. So now, Ben, I'm coming to you.
Yes.
To talk more about, the Mayor's Office on Asian Pacific Islander Affairs and the work that you do and really what that work means to you.
Mhm. Yeah, again, I think I echo what my colleagues have said in terms of the privilege that it is to serve the mayor, especially at this time, right? So, but I always like to talk about the work that our office does through two lenses. On one hand, we represent MayorBowser to the Asian and Pacific Islander community, right? So our staff are talking to community folks, we're engaging them, we're making sure that they know what the programs are that the mayor has initiated and that city government has put out there, and especially in these times with coronavirus, it's so important that that all of our residents are able to access the government resources that are available for relief and recovery efforts, right? At the same time, we kind of work the other way and advocate for our communities to city government. So we make sure that our city government agencies, as Director Kaba has said, are accessible, linguistically accessible and culturally accessible to all of our residents, regardless of their status, their citizenship status, regardless of what ward they live in, regardless of where they're from. And it's the idea of accessibility that I think really is so important for us to make sure that oftentimes our constituents, our residents that we serve are often the most vulnerable, right? And I think of that particularly in this moment again when our Asian American and Pacific Islander residents are feeling particularly besieged by the political climate over the last year, the last 15 months, when unfortunately the political leadership at the national level had not sufficiently ensured that we were all able to be in this together, right? So we're seeing that shift now, but our office, our mayor, has led the local effort to make sure that all of our residents know that that regardless of that the virus is the problem, not our residents, right? And so for me personally, I think so as someone who was born here, but who is a child of immigrants, being part of an immigrant family, being part of an immigrant community has always informed the work that I do, right? So making sure that, again, I came to DC with stars in my eyes like 20 some odd years ago in the 90s, wanting to make a difference somehow, and for many years I did that through national advocacy. I was involved in, but coming to the mayor's office and seeing the work that advocates do, that government agencies do at the local level, and talking to our residents and seeing the direct result of that work has been really rewarding. So I think that, as we go forward, I think these discussions and the celebration of immigrants in our community is going to become even more important.
Yeah, I think there were several really wonderful points that you brought up there, Ben, around what this year has highlighted is actually something that's been there all along. Difference is not something that people are comfortable with, whether that someone's different just in skin color, or different through language, or different through when they open up their lunchbox, there's different food there. Difference has not always been welcomed as a part of the American experience, right? And this year has absolutely highlighted that, I think, to even higher levels with, COVID-19 and where we think it comes from and who we think brings this virus here. And also, I would say, just the anti-immigrant rhetoric that has been a constant thread. I mean, maybe we had somebody who was living down the street who just offered that, over the last few years, but that's not new. But we know that this year has been particularly challenging So as you think about those challenges, not only in this past year, well, 15 months, but probably maybe as a thread through much of your experience even here in the United States, you know, what has having offices like MOLA, MOA, and Moapia meant to you as an immigrant, and how have those offices been able to support you, if not through this time, maybe an example other times? So I'm gonna start with you, Yildid, if you could think of an example of maybe a connection where, you know, having the Mayor's Office on African Affairs was really beneficial to you in being seen and being supported as an
Yes,
immigrant.
and exactly to your point, it has been beneficial. Not only that, it gives you some kind of pride, and I think the Office on African Affairs particularly is a unique office that only the district has, and I'm proud to say that, even to, you know, when I speak on my webinars related to this type of topic, to my fellow Ethiopians who live in Maryland, Virginia, or other states. And the other thing also is the fact that Amharic is like the official third language. And every time when I see that, when I go to the office, and you know, I can't explain to you how proud I feel. And the fact that it's a diverse team that Ali has. What does that mean? That means that the immigrant community have access to information. Language barrier is not going to be an issue. They have someone who can speak their native language, who provide information about the resources that they need. So all this, for me, it makes DC very unique. DC is really a home for me. After Ethiopia, I don't see myself living anywhere else. I've lived in Arlington when I first came here, but 11 years now I've been a DC resident. I don't see myself going anywhere. My 3 girls are born here. So the African Affairs has been a great resource, continue to be a great resource to our community. If I can add, recently we have collaborated, and we've been collaborating actually with the DC Small Business. The office has been collaborating, where we have started doing webinars in Amharic on how to start a business, because as you may know, a lot of immigrants who come here were entrepreneurs one way or the other in their native country. So in collaboration with the Mayor Office and the Women Business Center, we did a webinar in Amharic. The Office of the Mayor on African Affairs helped us with the translation of the PowerPoint. So the emails, the text I got from our community, even my brother and sisters who work in the Mayor Office were seniors. They were very, very pleased, you know. So this is what DC gives you, you know, for immigrant.
And so, Anna, I'm going to ask you the same. You know,
Okay.
what does having the Mayor's Office on Latino Affairs mean to you? And can you give me an example of how the office has been able to support you?
Sure. So we all know that we're all fortunate to live in Washington, D.C., a city that has a ton of resources, whether it's through for businesses, just a ton of resources. But oftentimes, say a small Latino business is not aware of those resources, so they don't take advantage of it, because it's also not necessarily customary in our country to go and reach to a government agency for assistance for your business, or for any matter, to find a job, or you know, Office of Latino Affairs provides many resources. But having an office where a fellow Latino can walk in and ask a question and have direct connection to all of the resources that the city offers, it's truly special, whether it be, you know, it breaks that barrier of language or being intimidated into walking into an office where nobody looks like you, or maybe they're, you know, are just intimidating. So definitely having the Office of Latino Affairs is a huge deal for the community and for all the different groups, right? To have access to have a specific place where you have access to all these resources and you can feel welcome and not intimidated.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that because I know it's been a priority of the mayor's always to support small businesses, to support our big businesses, to support diverse businesses. But absolutely during this year, when the vibrancy of our city was just completely shut down, I'm sure even in the business community, just thinking, how am I gonna stay afloat? And knowing that you have a mayor and a government and offices that want to support you in that way is just so important. And I've been excited even driving here today, like seeing people out on the street. I'm like, oh, there they are. Like that place is open. I can have coffee again. Or my favorite restaurant is open and now I can go and eat there. So thank you for lifting that up because I believe that there's been over $150 million put into our business community over this last year plus. And we know that there will need to be even more supports ongoing. But it's such an honor to live in a city where that is a priority.
Absolutely.
But Jocelyn, I still want to come to you to ask you about just your experience interacting with Moabia and what having an office like the Mayor's Office on Asian Pacific Islander Affairs means to you.
Well, I think that, I'm not a politician, but I have to say that knowing that we've had this support has been incredibly, we've all had our hearts broken. So when I think every immigrant has, just from, being in a different place and coming to a new place. But I think that for us, I'm very focused on sort of culinary, diplomacy. And I think the food industry is all about bringing that, my job has always been that, being that connector, that the restaurant industry is, that whole soul of diplomacy. And if we are to see something positive, it is to know that we have the support, in the city. And I always, I think all the Asian restaurant owners all know that we have the support. And, it's something that we live with. We are, of course, being targeted a lot more recently. But I will have to say that, in coming here and thinking about this, we do have in this city a soft power. And I believe that this soft power is really what the district already has in place. And all we need to do is really celebrate that, because all the restaurants, in the city, we all know each other for the first time in, I think, a very long time. We've all supported each other. And we have this community of people bringing cultures together. It's a very powerful, I think, tool to get our cities, we are a global location for food. And this is something that, I think we can, the mayor's office already has in place, and that all we have to do is just, keep doing what we do and protect the people who are now being targeted, vandalized, all of that. We need to just make sure that they are safe and that we can continue to do what we're already doing, which is really fantastic to see all these young chefs. What they're doing is a miracle, really, and it's God's work, because you're just giving so much of yourself, your culture, your language, teaching people about, how to communicate together through food, come together. And this is what, if you ask anybody, people have missed, dining together. So when we're all together again, this is a strength, it's power. We are a powerhouse in being in DC, but the soft power, I think, is more powerful.
Yeah, definitely the soft power, and I have missed, as a mother of two, being able to help my children experience so many different cultures through food.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I can make it Monday through Friday, but Saturday And Sunday, we need variety.
You do.
And so I have missed that greatly. I really have. And so if my children, if they're like, we're eating the same thing again, we're eating the same thing again.
Yes.
Just be happy.
Leftovers.
You know that you're eating. Yes, as my mother used to say. You'll eat every day. It may not be great, but you will eat every single day. And I think there are some things that you also mentioned there, Jocelyn, about being a global city, and seeing that vibrancy, and having, as many of you have mentioned, living other places, either in other countries or other places in the United States. I know I have. You don't see that everywhere. You don't feel that sense of belonging or that sense that, wow, it's okay to be different. And even looking at the languages behind you, that's even accessible. I think about places where I lived in Georgia, that was not the case. If you needed to access resources, that wasn't available. And I know that our offices work so hard in order to make sure that, not only are people having that culinary diplomacy, but also they can read the diplomacy in their own language. And I know that is so, just so critical. And so I want to come back to the offices, because what I think I've heard from our other panelists are that, they're seen. They feel seen, they feel represented. And that's because of the work that you do in your offices and the passion of your staffs. So I just want to talk again about what is the thing that makes you most passionate to come to work each day in that office. I know it's great that we have a mayor who signals to us that this type of diversity is welcome, and supported and funded, right? But also, what's the passion that brings you to work daily? Ben?
I think I would say two things. One is, again, the idea that you're part of something larger, right? I think, whether my family's sort of knew it or not, they were raising our kids to be public servants. My twin brother just retired from the military. And so for me, having been an advocate for so long and now working in local government, just seeing the fact that we're making change in people's lives is so important. At the same time, as someone who grew up with difference, right, who had that lunchbox that people didn't understand, who had to answer questions about like why we ate rice for breakfast. It instilled in me a kind of sharp sense of equity, right? So knowing that I'm working to make sure that our residents get treated fairly, that they get treated equitably, that they don't have to go through what other families have had to go through. That's what gets me going. And the past 15 months, you get up and you go to work and you just go downstairs, right? So so whether you're commuting, 12 steps or a mile and a half or whatever, the journey is what's important. So getting to work and making sure that we're out there, whether virtually or increasingly now in person, that's what's getting me going.
Thank you for that. And as I've been learning with my son, he's doing these, gets this little box each month to learn about different countries. Most people around the world eat rice. We are the ones here that are different, right? So my son was like, so bring on the rice. He wants more. So Director Kava, how about you? What is the passion that brings you to work? What drives you in your work?
Just being in position to help people that we can relate as immigrants, as we are all here, face different challenges coming to this country, ranging from employment, housing, language access. We have over 15,000 African immigrants in the district, representing 17% of the immigrant population. And this is the highest proportion of African immigrants in any major city in the US. but 50% of our community members are limited English proficient. And and we have been through that. We have faced a barrier. Coming here, we had to take English classes before putting ourselves on the job market. And we have faced different challenges that people that we are trying to serve today are facing. So it brings to us a really personal satisfaction to be able to do that. And just public service comes with personal satisfaction for us. So that's what passionates me.
Thank you for that. Jackie?
We're very, as the Latinos, we're very passionate by nature. But I think I want to bring it home, and also, you know, like people back home, they will say, "Oh my God, the government, they don't care." You know, when I started in government 15 years ago, people said, "Oh, you're gonna wear off." You know, it's gonna, you know, like that fire will not last like for 15 years. But growing up here, knowing that my dad had to work 3 jobs to make ends meet, you know, not speaking the language, and because he had to work, he couldn't learn English still. And so for me is when this started, I'm like, no, what about it could be many Israel Janes out there, you know? Like if we close the office, that he cannot access the unemployment, and we are like a one paycheck away from being homeless, you know? So I want to make sure that we have that. And growing up here in the city, when I was, the city is now like 30 years ago, and I was a teen mom, so I always think about like when the pandemic started, I'm like, oh my God, this could be me, or what about that me? That was me, you know, 27 years ago when I had my first child, and I didn't know what was gonna happen. So I decided like, no, we have to make things so everything that evolves about how I deal with my constituents, I always bring it home and say like, no, that brings a satisfaction to me. Like that could be me, that could be my dad, you know. So that makes me feel that I'm making a difference. When somebody in our office, if they call, they will have like hola hablo español, like right there. They and somebody alive is gonna talk to you, to speak to you. We answer the phone from Monday through Sundays from 9 to 5 because that could be somebody. And one thing that it was open and like heartfelt. The first person that died with the COVID, he didn't want to get up to go to the to get in the ambulance because he was afraid that he was gonna be asked about his immigration status. The mayor said, no, we have to send a strong message. Regardless of immigration status, you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. So that has been our mantra, that everybody that is looking at us in our different constituency office here, our doors are open, and we're gonna, like, if we don't know the answer, we're gonna figure it out together. You know, the mayor always says we are on this together, and we're gonna get out together. And what we have learned, I don't think we're gonna go back to normal. We're gonna become a new normal. You know, that the human size has brought up us, and it has, as a city, I feel proud that we have come out more stronger, and that people are looking at us in the nation's capital like, hey, if DC could make this happen, everybody else could make it happen in the local government. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we're government, we don't care. You know, we have brought up that human size. So that brings my passion every day, you know, for our constituents to know that we care. And we love them.
Yeah, and when you make that type of a commitment from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., 7 days a week, answering phones, being out in the community, you know, breaking down, you know, the barriers that, you know, not having things in, you know, someone's native language can bring. I mean, there is a lot of passion in that. I can even think, just personally, I want to thank you all, especially the directors, because I have come into contact with many neighbors who have needed supports, and you know, when I have connected them with your offices, they feel like you all are rock stars. You know, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you know so and so. You know, and they spoke to me in my language, and I think even more most acutely, for me, it was my daughter goes to a bilingual childcare center, and one of my daughter's beloved teachers was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I remember she speaks Spanish, and so I remember connecting her with Jackie, and she cried. She just really appreciated the fact that, you know, someone would help her and walk through, and then also to even see businesses and, you know, health centers here in the district, you know, that are run by people who are a part of the vibrancy of our immigrant community. And that is the norm. You know, I feel honored that my children will grow up in a city where that is the norm. Especially because being a Black woman myself, I experience that same difference, and we have that thread, you know, that is together. And I think that passion that each of you have, which is making me feel really emotional in this moment, is something that makes our city so beautiful. And so while I had a different question, I'm gonna switch it up and ask you all to lighten up the mood, because I was feeling emotional, about just the beauty that each of you all bring to this space, you know, which can elicit a lot of emotions. But I wanna close out by asking each of you, in a brief phrase, to say why, as an immigrant, you love DC. Ben?
I may cheat a little because our office, I haven't had a chance to talk about the diversity of
Yes.
groups our office gets to
Yes.
represent.
Go
You know,
ahead.
our office, you know, has to speak, you know, 3 languages. I always say I'm trilingual because I try to speak Tagalog with our Filipino residents, and I try to speak Spanish. But, you know, I think that because the diversity of the Asia and the Pacific Rim has immigrated here, our office has always had to sort of speak many different languages. And to me, I think it is that diversity that makes DC such a beautiful place. It's local, it's also federal, it's also international. It's Asian, it's Latino, it's African, it's European, it's all of these different things. And to me, that's what's so beautiful about it.
Jocelyn, why you love DC?
I love DC because it's a hub. And I think that for my family, I had a man come into my restaurant who was 100 years old, and he had met my father in another life. So when you have the place that you live is a hub where people normally connect on planes and trains, and they happen to come to DC, they're going to look you up. So your family gets bigger and bigger as you go. And I think that to me has been such a godsend in its own way, because you know you have this hub, you have this the federal side, but you also really have that there's something about the city that has the big city feel to it, but it also has that, you know, real community type community, which I love. So I think that that's what keeps me here.
I like that.
Yeah,
Why do you
yeah.
love DC?
Oh my God, I think that somebody said that you wouldn't want to be out of DC. I feel fish out of the water when I'm out of the city, even when I'm out of DC. And when I go to El Salvador, it's been 2 weeks, and I was like, okay, this is home for me now. I have to come back. DC is home to 180 countries, and I just looked that up the other day, and I'm like, wow, it is true. If I go to Adams Morgan and that strip, I can just like travel the whole world, you know, like all the restaurants on 18th Street, then A Street. I mean, just like I have experienced all the taste of all the different foods. So that's a taste of DC is so great. But we have so many countries, and like the experience. My daughter went to Bancroft and she came speaking Vietnamese, you know, just because her classmates were from Vietnam. So I'm like, wow, it's so beautiful to coexist. You know, and we are, and I like to say the mayor is the nation's mayor, and she has proved that to us, like, you know, like she's international, like, you know, when she goes to different countries, like she becomes part of that and transmit that. So I love just to have the privilege to be in a city that, regardless of how we look or who we choose to love, you know, we're gonna be treated with dignity and respect. So that's what I love, DC.
All right, so just kind of echoing what has been said, right? In DC, you can get a true, authentic experience of different cultures, whether it's through food, traditions, everything that comes with people's cultures. It's not just the concept of of a different culture. You can actually experience it through friendships that you make in your daily life, through work, schools, food, obviously. So it really gives you, you're exposed to so many different cultures on a very personal level. And there's an immigrant voice here in DC, and there's resources to help you achieve your goals, right? That you come as an immigrant, you come to the United States seeking a goal. DC is a place that values and respects immigrants and provides resources. So that's truly special.
For me, again, DC is a welcoming city. When I say that, not only the community, but even the structure of the government that we just talked about this morning. And the fact that it's an international city. My background is more international, and I speak 3 languages. And I was privileged to learn French back in Ethiopia. But the fact that I'm able to also offer the same opportunity for my child, where she goes to the bilingual school, and she's learning, other languages, Spanish. Now she's going to be learning Chinese program. I mean, this is just amazing. This is a true dream for any immigrant who come to the United States, because it's all about living the American dream, getting your higher education, being professional, and giving a good and stable life for your children, so that they become a better citizen. And this is what DC has offered me.
Yes. I love DC because first it's a sanctuary city, a diverse and inclusive city where people from all backgrounds can have a fair shot and thrive. But it's also, I love it also because it's a city that celebrates diversity through different events such as the Immigrant Heritage Month, the Hispanic Heritage Month, the African Heritage Month. And I'm a proud Mandenka from Guinea-Conakry, but I love seeing so many Africans here in the district, coming from all over the continent. And while there is such diversity among different ethnic groups and communities, shared values of respect, integrity, and courtesy bring people together. So we can really feel like at home here. This is why I love DC.
Yeah, and also to mention, this month is also Caribbean Heritage Month.
Yes.
And so it's a perfect pairing. Although we don't have any of our Caribbean neighbors here right now, we know that again we will all be celebrating together this month, and it's Pride Month, and there's just so many amazing things happening. And I just thank each of you for sharing, more about why you love DC. And I think that passion and all the beauty and the culinary diplomacy, I like that. I definitely like that. That I think brings us all together is why, we have a mayor who is really pushing forward to ensure that everyone feels represented, and showing that not only in words also but in action. And that will ensure that we can have many, many more generations of people of immigrant heritage here in the District of Columbia for generations to come. And so that's really exciting, and just warms my heart that we can all grow together as a community that way, which is really beautiful. So thank you for sharing your experiences with us. This has been really an honor for me, especially, just to learn so much more and to feel even more connected to our neighbors. And I know people will appreciate this opportunity with you as well. So as I mentioned, we are now in Immigrant Heritage Month, and also Caribbean Heritage Month and Pride Month, and there are going to be so many really amazing things to happen, but we are definitely talking about Immigrant Heritage Month, and there are many, many more activations, pop-up activations to come. There will also be some pop-up activations and local restaurant celebrations on the 24th. We hope that you have enjoyed this video, and that you will look forward also to our We Love DC video, which will be coming up, and I think pairing along with everything that our panelists here today have said. And so on behalf of Mayor MayorBowser, I want to just thank you for spending this time with us, and also to wish each of you and everyone out there a happy Immigrant Heritage Month.